Welcome to Startup to Success with Maria. I have a very beautiful guest today, Tania Possick, who is a voiceover actress and choreographer based in Los Angeles. She has a long list of credits in the entertainment industry all over the world. She has experience as a dancer, choreographer, producer, instructor, and a voiceover artist. Tania, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my God, me too. We work with so many voiceover actresses for our advertising company. Obviously, we hire different voices and they just bring so much life to the ads that we're trying to run and get attention. And so I'm so excited to understand the back end of everything, because like working with you guys is one thing. We usually come back and give you guys the script, and then you take this boring script and turn it into something so fun and amazing. But I'm so excited to have you on the show because I want to understand the how and everything about it from your perspective. But before we begin, I want to my first question is going to be, what inspired you to become, well, a dancer and a voiceover actress?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I actually was at a park. My dad used to have a little catering business, and we would tag along sometimes. And there was a little craft fair, and there was a dance studio there, and the girls were performing. And I just remember watching them and being like, wow. And I've always been drawn to dance since I was a kid. So that's how I kind of fell into that. I watched them and they kind of were pulling kids on stage and I was dancing with them. And then I thought, this is it. I love this. And I started taking classes and I basically danced from the time I was 9 until I graduated high school. And then I kind of dropped everything. Um, my family, my mom's side is from El Salvador. And my dad was born in Uruguay, but he has some Polish background. And, I just felt I kind of grew up thinking, okay, like the arts, that's just not what we do. I know that other people do this. Um, People with money do this.
Right.
And it felt to me like that wasn't something I was destined to do. I needed to work an office job because I needed to help my family pay bills. There was a lot of weight um, there. So I kind of, I went to UC Berkeley and I just stopped dancing. And I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought maybe I would work in music business because I was really interested in the music business. And then I ended up graduating with a communications major. But then when I came back, I interned at a music licensing place and didn't go too well. I was like, this is just an office job. Started taking dance classes at community college.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I started getting back into that. And then I just started choreographing shows and dancing in shows. And that was my life for a long time until one day I thought, I'm getting to the point where I don't know if I could keep up this lifestyle. It's rehearsals till, 1, 2 in the morning, and then coming back and then teaching dance classes, here. And I mean, if you're in Southern California, it's like the Valley and Santa Monica, and then a gig at a club. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I ended up finding or I ended up watching some television and I would see at the time all these commercials with people dancing like in car commercials. And I was like, I could do that. Like, how come I'm not doing this? The
Right.
commercial side of things. Of course, I didn't know anything about it. Um, Not at all. But I did decide to get a commercial agent. And then when they signed me for on camera, they also signed me for voiceover, which
Smart.
what an amazing thing. And it was just perfect timing. Um, I know now it's really difficult sometimes for people to get agents and the voiceover world has just blown up over the pandemic.
Yeah.
Uh, So I was kind of lucky in that way that it just sort of fell into my lap. And it was something that I had been interested in doing before. And I knew a couple of people that did voiceover, but it just seemed like such a small,
Mhm.
contained community. And I didn't know very much about it. People didn't talk too much about it. But that's kind of it. I started auditioning, fell in love, and I've been doing it ever since. So it's
Amazing.
very exciting. Yeah.
Amazing. So tell me some of the type of work that you do voiceover for. Is it mostly advertising or what kind
Yeah,
of?
I mean, it's kind of all over. And the funny thing with a voiceover, it's the more you get into it, the more little pockets that you realize exist. There's IVR, there's e-learning, there's, commercials, there's voiceover for film and TV, there's audiobook. I mean,
It's,
everywhere you go,
that it's
if
needed.
you hear a voice, someone did that,
Yep.
someone recorded that, the voiceover actor. I mostly do commercials. I do a lot of commercials, but I just recorded an audiobook, which is really great, for about
How long did the audiobook take?
so it actually took me 3 or 4 sessions.
Wow.
I was booked, like, 5 hours at a time.
Wow.
Sometimes we did less time, sometimes we did more. Um, it was a great experience, it really is sometimes intimidating to do all these different characters and, read, it's very intimidating, but really rewarding. So I'm excited for that. That book is coming out. It's called Heartbreak Symphony. It'll be on Audible, in April, I believe. Great, story about two Latinx characters, and the writer is a woman and Latin, and it's pretty wonderful. So it's a great story. And I've also do animation. So those are,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
commercial animation is more my thing, but so many avenues, and I don't say no to anything because why would you? It's
Yeah.
all free.
Yeah. It's also fun and yeah. Tell me a little bit about being bilingual in this industry. Does that give you a heads? Do you get more opportunities because you're bilingual?
Yeah, I would say so in this time. So when I did get my first agent, they were looking for bilingual artists, I think to kind of fill their roster. That to me was the beginning um, of what we see in the US right now, which is a lot more people of color, a lot more women, in many industries, and then of course people who speak both languages. I would imagine it's great for someone in marketing or advertising to get one actor who can do both
I was
language.
just gonna say that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
wish I had known you a year and a half ago when we were looking for a bilingual VO female who could do the ad in English and Spanish. It was so hard for us to find somebody
Wow.
because we didn't want two different voices. We wanted the same voice, but in both languages. And I remember my team had to search for it for like days. And, we have our roster of VOs that we work with, by the way, like it's so crazy. Like you said, you mentioned that you find that there's a niche within a niche, and like most marketing agencies, they have a list of VOs that they always go to
Mhm.
for almost all of their clients and all of their ads because they know that they're reliable, they're going to come through, and they already like for example, like we have little notations next to every VO's name. Oh, they're fun, they can be fun, they can be this, like it just, as we're thinking of the ad, it helps to have our roster of VOs that we work with. So I'm just curious, is that like, have you approached any agencies, PR or marketing agencies to get on their roster so that you can get opportunities as well?
Yeah. Well, I have some clients that are ongoing clients that I work with all the time. I would say personally, I'm not the best at marketing myself. I mean, I have my Instagram and my website, and I'm not, I am somewhat technically savvy, but I do know people who are so lucrative because they are emailing their people all day, every day, or at least once a week,
Yeah.
communicating. I'm not always the best with that because I feel like I'm running from one thing to another.
Or,
But making the time is so important because I know I've spoken to people who've said, agent or not, they're like, I actually get more work um, with promoting myself and putting myself out there than from the agencies. Not because they're not sending great work, but like you said, people like to work with people who they know,
yeah.
who are recommended to them, who are reliable. I've seen a lot of people get work from TikTok recently,
Yeah.
people with large followings because they're like, "Oh, we love them. We know that they can do that." It's just
Yeah.
you're showing what you can do essentially. Um, but but yeah, I mean, more than ever, I've seen more opportunities, at least for me, either speaking Spanish or at least for to play a Latina or anything like that because um, just those characters are written more.
I'm
I played,
so happy. So happy about that, by the way. As a
I
minority myself, I just, it's time. It's time. It's should have
yeah,
been yesterday.
and the funny thing, it's like, it takes people like you and me
Yeah.
to write things
Yeah.
because those people don't always exist yet, and so you kinda have to be the first,
Yeah.
and, for the first time ever, I shed a tear. I actually played 2 roles in, an American Girl doll series, and both of them were from El Salvador. And
Oh,
in the breakdown, I got an email from my agent. They're like, and they say the name of the character and they say, I don't know, I'm making this up, Luisa, dash. And then it'll say, her family's from El Salvador and, she's a soccer player and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I've legit never seen that ever.
mm-mm.
And it was great. And now I'm seeing more Central American um voices and it's really cool to be at the cusp of
Yeah.
this,
Mhm.
and I'm excited to see what else comes our way.
And hopefully the generations next will thrive on what you're what you're starting out, what I'm starting out. Sometimes I'm like, God, it's hard to be a minority, like in advertising, for example. It's still the white men, calling the shots and everything. And it was challenging for me for a while to just always be under their umbrella and just stay quiet and just like go with the flow. And then one day I was like, I'm done. I'm starting my own agency. I can't
Yeah.
I just I'd rather just say goodbye to that steady income, but start making a difference and get out there and voice my opinion and strategies and my vision, because I've come to a realization that if we don't take that leap and have that chance, we can never set good examples for the next generations. Like I have 2 daughters and I want them to know that they're going to be treated equally in every industry, not just
Yeah.
in the advertising industry. How has the industry in terms of, I know that a lot of times, and this is, I'm talking about 10 years ago when I first got into the advertising industry, uh, for some reason, we would do A/B testing and we would do different female and male VOs and do A/B testing and see which ads would generate more ROI and which one would yield the highest results. And for
Yeah.
some odd reason, the answers were always men. And that always bothered me. I was like, what do you mean men? Like, what does that even mean? Well, they're like, look, we have the same ad, 2 different VOs are reading it. We're getting more results with the male VOs, the male VO advertising than the women. And that would always bother me because I'm a bit of a
Yeah.
feminist. Do you know anything, any
I'll,
research? I'm
I'll
curious.
give you my opinion on why, because I had this very similar situation come up in a class, and me being the spokesperson for women in VO at my company, um, I I was in a class, it was for, promos, for, a certain channel, and they were saying that they had their go-to people on the roster. They had a male voice and a female voice, and the female voice always voiced the younger kids' shows,
Mm,
and the men would always do the older kids and the quote unquote boy shows, right? And I asked, I was like, why? And, the answer was, oh, there's these, older white men still in charge of the network. And you go, okay, sure. And I said, but there's got to be more to that. And the same answer, exactly what you just said, which is when you're doing the testing, that boys will gravitate to the male voices and girls and younger kids will gravitate towards the female voices. And so I just said this. Well, the reason that is because that's what they've always heard up to this point.
right.
So if you're a little child, you know, you're probably used to a promo voice coming on and it's a woman and it's very, loving and caring and blah, 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 or whatever. Not that it can't be a male, it can. It's just that's what we've heard from the time we were babies to the time we were 6. And then it changes over, right? From the time you're 6. I mean, think about movie trailers. What do you hear in your head when you think of a movie trailer? You hear a man's deep, deep voice, but that's only because that's all we've ever known. And so it was interesting because I said, you're just going to have to change that. You're just going to have to flip it or mix it because otherwise your stats are always going to continue to be the same. Even us as adults, I'm so like in my head thinking when I try to do auditions for promos or movie trailers, I'm like, I don't sound like
Yeah.
in a world, I don't have that deep
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's not adequate.
Yeah.
And that's dumb
'Cause-
because that's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
our own stuff coming in our heads. It's like, it's just, that's what I've always heard. But
Yeah.
things have to change in order to change. You know what I mean? Boys need to hear women in powerful situations in order to understand or realize that that voice is just as powerful. So I'm curious to see what will happen, but what they said was like, well, I guess we're just gonna have to wait till these older white men die off. And I was like, really? That's the solution? No, that can't be the solution.
Too late. We can't wait that long. No.
No, we can't.
And to your point, I remember challenging them and saying, well, if you run it long enough and not cut it after 2-3 months and saying, oh no, the women VO ad isn't working, let's just cut that and allocate all the budget to the male VO ad after like a few months. I was like, if you run it long enough, the numbers might change. And it was always like, no, why would we bother wasting the money on an ad that's not generating enough revenue? So it always pissed me off. And to your point, it's like, everybody's just looking for the short-term solution and not really pushing
Right.
long enough to make that change. And hopefully more women will be in power and in positions where they can make those decisions. I honestly never work with male VOs. I'll be honest with you, for the past almost 6 years that I've had my own agency, it's always women VOs. And not to discriminate against men in any way. I'm not trying to turn the table around, but I do think there is a lack of equality. And every time I feel like it's my way to help my female, you know, my female partners in business in the industry.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's still strange that we're living in this era and still dealing with those things, with those issues that aren't talked about so much.
Yes. And even in the time that I've been in the voiceover industry, um, I have gone from now my engineers are usually men. I've only worked with maybe 2 women engineers, like, that I remember, which is crazy. Um, but directors, I have seen more recently. I've done, some work, and I've had way more female directors, but when I first started, that is not the case. Even producers, and I've seen change within some of the big companies that I work with continuously. Their team has sort of evolved and grown, and like the copywriters are women now, or at least include women, or they're asking women their opinions, and it's amazing. I mean, I'm still shocked that we haven't seen a woman president. I mean, I look at all the problems of current day and I'm like, why are men still in charge?
And you know what amazes me, and being in advertising, what amazes me is that most of our consumers, most of the our customers are women. Why are men making the decisions to create stuff for them or to promote things to them? And I had a shoe company after grad school. After I graduated from got my master's degree, I decided to start my own shoe company back like 20 years ago. And I remember when I first started, the shoe industry in Los Angeles, which is very small, it's a small niche community that knows each other. They were all men, and they all said, "Oh, you're a woman. You shouldn't get into this business. It's too hard." And I said, "Why are you guys making shoes for women? You haven't even tried on the shoe. You don't even know how comfortable it is. Like, who told you that you're best at making shoes?" A common sense question, right? And they're like, "No, well, it's an artistry, and you need to know how to do this." And then I said, "I'll hire the people to do it for me. I'm not going to go and assemble a shoe myself, but I
Right.
want to try on the shoe. I want to design. I want to find the leather that I want and make it the way I want it so that it's comfortable on my foot, and then will be comfortable for all the other females." And within a year, when I started my bridal shoe company, within a year, my company blew up so fast. I opened the factory, and some of these men that were saying, "No, you can't do it," ended up coming and working for me. And
Interesting.
so, I'm so happy that I look back at that experience, and and I and I'm realizing that if it wasn't me sticking to my grounds and saying, "No, I know I want to make something that's comfortable." You've never even tried on the shoe, and you're making a shoe for a woman? Like, come on, let's think about that. And so if certain industries start changing this way, where women stand up and say, "Wait, if your customer base is mostly females, then you should not be doing this. You should have females involved in the executive team and the decision making
Right.
process and the design, the concept, everything, not just in the entertainment industry, all industries." So yeah, that's a whole different subject that could probably take us an entire 2 more interviews. I really want to shine a light on women in VO. You started that in the midst of the pandemic, right? 2020.
Yeah, like, maybe July or August of 2020, which is so crazy to think that we're in 2022
I
now.
know. I know.
Um, so yeah, we're coming up. I guess it's been about a year and a half of its existence. It is a networking community, um, primarily based online. We have meetups, we do classes. Basically just here for support. I feel like so many people have so many questions, and a lot of people have coaches or mentors, and but sometimes you don't even know where to start. And or maybe you like me, I was able to contact a woman I know. She's actually in England. uh and ask her a couple questions about the audiobook industry, because I didn't know. I mean, listen, I've been in the voiceover world for a long time, but I've never gone that way. And so just to ask just some simple things like, hey, you got some tips for me? I was able to connect, and I've known her because of Women in VO. people are able to kind of ask, hey, what mics are great, hey, what works for your voice? Because we don't have the same voices, as our male counterparts. And what's interesting to me is the connection that we've made online. It's so wonderful. I know a lot of these women have actually met in person, who have friendships, who have internet friendships, who are holding each other accountable, because this is a business
Yep.
and it's hard. The arts are hard. You book one thing and maybe you won't book something for months,
Yeah.
or maybe you've never booked something and you're like, I want to keep going, but like I don't feel great about it. And we see a lot of people shine online because people will always post their wins and not necessarily their losses. And I think that's great. I think everyone should post their wins. In fact, I like to promote that in the Women in VO our Instagram. I was like, tag us, show us what you're doing. We want to share your work because you deserve that. You deserve to be applauded when you accomplish a goal, whether that's taking a class, whether that's recording a demo, whether that's booking a national or whatever. I think coming from a background where I never felt like my accomplishments were enough. Even the little things to me are important, and I want to share the stories. I want to share people's wins.
I love that. I love that. That is so inspiring. And I think, I don't, were you born here,
I
Tanya?
was. I'm firstborn. Yeah.
See, you're lucky. At least you were born here. I mean, being an immigrant, I'm a first generation immigrant. I came to the States when I was 12. There's this thing where we just never think we're good enough.
Oh,
And
and I feel
it's so sad. And I don't know if it's because, we can't English. I mean, at least for me, if English was my third language and I just never felt like no matter what I do, I can never be equivalent to someone who was born here, whether it's with the way I speak English or whatever it is. But then at one point in my life, I remember thinking that I need to drop that mentality. I can't continue thinking that way. And it's kind of sad, but we can't have us hold any, like nothing should hold us back. And so I love that you mentioned the little things. You pay attention to the little things because that's all there's those are the things we should hold on to, the little tiny things, and slowly we'll get to a place where we feel really amazing about everything that we're doing. um, Tell me a little bit about what women who are in VO can expect by joining your amazing community.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, mainly we're here for, like I said, support and spreading your anything. I mean, honestly, tag me in a photo and I will share that photo because it's about, I don't want to say I'm terrible at marketing, but sometimes I can be. And I know just saying that you're a voiceover artist is a big thing. Whether you're starting a new business or you're continuing this business after a hiatus, or maybe you've been doing it this whole time. So, really showcasing people. We offer classes, we offer meetups, which I think are the hugest thing for me, that are a benefit to meet these other women in the community. We have hundreds of people that kind of chime in on a Zoom, and we introduce ourselves and people get to chat. And I mean, we're talking people from all over the world. And it's so wonderful because you get to bounce ideas off of each other. And when you subscribe to our website, you also get, first first email the subscribers about all of our meetups. So if they sell out, then it's great because you were a subscriber, but then it opens up to the rest of the community. And then also we do offer when I have auditions, or job opportunities, I do blast that to my email list. And it's great because sometimes it's very niche. I mean, we live in a time now that it's like, oh, we're looking for, a female artist who speaks Cantonese and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I'm not that person, but I will blast it to the community. And we have been able to hire, people have gotten hired through that. And I just find that that's so cool. I mean, eventually I hope to bring more opportunities like that to people, because it's not always easy getting a job in this industry, although there are many, many, many jobs out there. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that there's room for everyone, you
Mhm.
know, but it's a matter of, a lot of the times it is who you know, or some connections. I mean, I just booked a job, um, a dubbing job for a telenovela. It's
Ah,
gonna be in English. I'm gonna dub English and, or to English, I should say. And I got that because another person I met from the community, posted something, and it was just like
yeah.
someone that I know, asked me if I saw this post, and it's just so funny what the internet can do. It can connect you, and because they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, I know you from this," and, "Oh, yeah, I know that you're this." So I booked that job, and it's amazing, and I wanna pay it forward,
Yeah.
I want to always, if there's any sort of opportunity, I want to give people that opportunity.
Do you see the future of women in VO having a place where, company marketing agency owners like myself can go and be able to see a list of different VOs and we can maybe pick
Yes.
and choose? Is that something that you can?
Yes, absolutely. So again, this has kind of been a slower ride for me because I do work a lot.
Right.
But when I see and envision what women in VO could be, um, I mean, I can see, a roster where, the demos are up on the
Yeah.
website, and people can come in and choose, and, different languages, different colors. And I definitely see that, because that is where I thrive when other people around me are thriving, and so I really do want that. And one of my biggest goals, I tell I tell the women almost every single time we meet up, I'm like, I know it was the middle of the pandemic, but my biggest goal is to do like women in VO retreats.
Oh, I love
And th-
that.
I'm looking forward to the day where I can seriously plan that. Um, and have these amazing retreats for women who, can learn while we're, at some destination, and really focus on our work. But not only that, bond and talk to each other.
Yeah,
Because it's just like I said, like creating that circle, it's important.
it's important because a lot of the stuff, I think a lot of the challenges we deal with are just programmed in our heads, and all we
Mhm,
need to do is reprogram it. And when
mhm.
you are around women who are in the same industry doing the same thing, and they're telling you, oh no, have you looked at this problem from this side or that side, or have you
Yeah.
tried this and that, then you're more you're probably going to take that advice and do something about it and change the way your perception is towards something, and that's what's going to push you to go to the next level. But when somebody like your husband, who has no idea about your industry, like I'm going to give you my example, is telling me, why don't you do this? Most of the times I don't even listen to him all the way, because I'm like, you don't know how my industry works. It's kind of sad, but that's how it is. And that's why I think, I love the retreat idea. And you could start that with 5 people. You don't have to
Oh,
have 3 or 3
absolutely.
people. Just do a full day thing. I've been personally wanting to do that too. But it's just so hard when you have a full-time job. And in my case, I have 2 companies, and then I started the radio show back in June, and which is also going to launch as a podcast show end of March. It's just overwhelming, but I love finding time to connect with other female entrepreneurs, not just in my industry, but in general. And I find myself always giving them marketing advice. I'm like, have you thought about this? Have you done this? Have you done that? Like, I just love seeing other people thrive on a small thing that I could, share with them, or a list of things, and I'm just like, here's a list of, women organizations. You can reach out to them and share what you
Yeah.
do with them and so on, just to give them that open up a door for them, because you never know, that one email, that one list of contacts could give them a whole new opportunity to something that could lead to greater things, and so I do that too. I feel like the more I give, the more comes back to me. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I see that that's precisely what you're doing with women in VO. It's you're investing so much time and effort into giving and connecting these women, but hopefully it'll come to a full circle where you can also eventually monetize from it too. Because honestly, the minute I saw it, I just envisioned it to be, a place where most marketing agencies, pretty much everybody that you mentioned, all the different types of industries that need VOs, would go to and support, not
Yeah.
just support because you're a woman, it's women, but also because they need it. And if it's a hub of different types of women VOs, it saves us time. Like I said before we started the interview, for me, or I think I mentioned it actually in the interview as well, that for one of my clients, we wanted the same VO doing an English version and a Spanish version. It took us a while. We had to go through different places, different agencies, different sites to find somebody. And if I know that there's just one place that I can find my women, it'll save us so much time and effort. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and thankfully, again, like we are in a time where we are now shining a light on a lot of people who are capable of doing this, because there are so many bilingual artists. They really are. And I mean, and I'm not just speaking in Spanish, like through Women in VO, I mean, there's people in the Middle East, there's people in Africa, there's people like everywhere. And it's it's funny because before Women in VO, I don't know if I would have ever connected with those people. And like like I said like earlier, that when there's a very niche thing, um yeah, to be able to connect and be like, "Hey, does anybody know this?" And then for me to blast that out, like, it
Yeah.
is really wonderful. And I hope to continue to do that. But also, I mean, so proud of you for dipping in so
Thank
many things. I mean,
I'm a
I find
serial entrepreneur. I just don't stop. Every time I have a problem, I solve it for myself, and then it just turns into a business, which is so weird.
that's great though, because don't you find, I mean, this is a question for you. I'm the interviewer now. No, this is a question for you. Just don't you find that when you do know several things in different areas, that it just kind of makes you stronger at everything that you do, right?
It does. And I think this comes back in full circle, because I remember being 16 and listening to Dr. Laura, okay, on the radio, and another show on KFI. I was obsessed with the radio and always wanting to be a radio host. But then
Yeah.
this like thing where, oh, it's impossible. You can't, like, no, oh, and I'm one of those people where if you find me in a room, I'm very talkative and I love talking. And I was like, I don't know if I can ever be a radio host, because I talk too much. I mean, I talk too much, but in order to interview people, you have to be quiet and listen. And but then, in the beginning, I was like, no, all these excuses why I can't. And then as I ventured out on my own and started different types of businesses in different industries, I realized that I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship and just business in general. I'm passionate about women, supporting women. And then when the network actually connected with me and said, hey, would you be interested in having an entrepreneurship show? It was like, oh my God, it's a dream. Like, yes, I would be interested. And so it helps that I have the background of all the different industries, because then
Yeah.
I don't think about the questions. It naturally comes, and I know the challenges, and I know the pains, and the excitements, and all of it that we generally go through. So it comes off easy for me. It's almost like I'm having fun. I don't look at it like anything else. But most importantly, I think the driving force behind it all is that, because I've been there, done that, and I know how hard it is to get attention in this noisy world, and there, especially when you're in an industry that's so competitive. Now I'm on a mission to just shine a light on women, men, everybody pretty much, but it leans more towards women. I love shining a light on what they do, and I, as a marketer, I can't help it to try to help them promote themselves and grow what they do. So I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to hear about women in VO, and I can already envision how big it's going to be. It's going to blow up into this like huge thing. But one thing I would suggest from marketing perspective, I would highly suggest focus on reaching out to marketing agencies and
Yeah.
start connecting, because there's a lot of, internally, a lot of agencies are starting to figure out how to support more women businesses. And so you focusing on women could definitely give you a leg up. And I would also suggest for you to get women certified.
Yeah. That's something that
That
I'm working towards. Yeah.
do that, and offline I can definitely share more with you, but I would highly recommend that, because that's a huge network that will support you, and a lot of different businesses are there. But oh my God, Tania, I can't believe we're coming to an end. I have so many questions still, and we didn't even get a chance to cover half of them. But again, if you can mention to the listeners how they can get a hold of you, whether they want to hire you as a VO or if they want to join Women in VO, just remind us, and we'll have all the information in the show notes as well.
Great. Awesome. Well, my personal website is www.taniapossick.com. That's TaniaPossick. And then you can join us at Women in VO on Instagram, or you can join us at www.womeninvo.net. And you can find our emails there. And I'm sure in one way or another, you can connect with me either on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. Although I don't check LinkedIn as much as I do Instagram. Yeah. So Instagram, if you want to reach out, you can DM us at Women in VO. That's a simple way to do that. And there's some information also on the website. So I'm excited, hopefully, to connect with some more people. And thank you so much,
My
Maria.
pleasure. Thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Thank you, Tania. Good luck.
Thank you so much.